All right, well, if everybody is ready, we will get started. Good evening to everyone who's joined us tonight. Welcome to our webinar on simple fundraising for the giving season, how to have a big impact on a small budget. And the challenge for me is always getting my key to work to switch the program. So we'll see if we can get it. There we go. So I am Sherry Dunn, technology challenged at the moment, but I'm with Alpha Fraternity Management. And I'll be joined tonight by one of Alpha's business managers, Bill Horner. Our business managers are a key part of our business management program, offering insight, guidance, and support to our business management clients. We're also teaming up tonight with Brian Bates with Elevate IMS. Elevate specializes in alumni communications and capital campaign fundraising for fraternities and sororities. Together, we'll be sharing some simple concepts to help you take advantage of the upcoming giving season and best practices for your year-round efforts. Alpha Fraternity Management has been focusing on the professional management of fraternities and sororities for almost 20 years now. While our core services include facility management, accounting and finance, and leasing and collections, our tenure has allowed us to develop solutions to meet the unique needs of fraternities and sororities in ways that traditional property managers or a software program simply can't. We currently operate on 73 campuses in 37 states and are frequently in talks with groups on new campuses. So let's get into our topic for tonight. In my experience, very few people enjoy asking for money, and even fewer are truly skilled at it. Fortunately, there are organizations like Elevate that specialize in exactly that. Still, not every group is ready to dive into a major fundraising campaign right away. When most people hear fundraising, they often think of large-scale capital drives. But tonight, we'll cover more than that. In addition to touching on major capital campaigns, we'll share practical do-it-yourself fundraising ideas that you can implement immediately and see real results. So I'm delighted now to introduce Brian Bates, principal at Elevate IMS, a firm dedicated to alumni communications and capital campaign fundraising for fraternities and sororities. Under Brian's leadership, Elevate has partnered with hundreds of housing corporations across the country, helping clients raise over $100 million to strengthen housing and alumni engagement efforts. A proud Drake University graduate and member of Tau Kappa Epsilon, Brian brings extensive volunteer experience, including multiple leadership roles with TEAC and the TEAC Educational Foundation. He is also the founder and driving force behind the Greek Housing Conference, now celebrating its 13th year, which provides valuable education and best practices for fraternity and sorority housing volunteers. Now, we've reserved some time at the end for your questions. We're hoping that you have a lot. We're ready to answer, but please add them to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen as we go along. We'll make sure that they're addressed before we wrap up. So grab your notebooks and get ready to walk away with some practical, actionable ideas that you can put to use right away. Brian, the floor is yours.
Great, Sherry. Thank you very much, and really thrilled to be here with Alpha Management and with you guys tonight. Appreciate you giving of your time to be with us. We're going to talk about four typical fundraising programs. We're going to spend most of our time on the annual giving and the small to medium-sized special projects, but I do want to touch base on the restricted programs and the major capital campaigns very briefly. So the four are annual giving, restricted programs, which are generally tied to scholarships, the small to medium-sized special project fundraising, and then major capital campaigns. Sherry? So before we get into that, let's talk about the fundraising myths. So there's a handful of them. The most popular is if everyone just gave a little. That doesn't happen. We'll get into specific statistics in a little bit based upon the different types of fundraising programs. Another one, if we publish it, either if we mail it or if we put it online, people will give. Fundraising is easy. It can be, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Once they give, they'll automatically give again. Yes, as long as you've got some steps in place. So donor retention is a very critical component, of everything that you need to do. Fundraising and fundraising are separate? No, they are the same. You need to be doing fundraising in conjunction with fundraising. In fact, you need to do fundraising often and frequently before you do fundraising. And we'll talk about some of those strategies when we get into the annual program. And then we need to wait until everything's perfect. No, if you wait till everything's perfect, you'll never start. So build a program, have a plan, and implement it. Adjust, fix, modify over time. Sherry? Number one complaint in fundraising, when we do major capital fundraising, the number one complaint is I haven't heard from you in X number of years. So no matter what you want to do, whether it's a small annual program to offset, homecoming events, or raise money for a small project, or plan for a major capital campaign down the road, you've got to implement a regular and consistent communication program. That is the number one most important thing. If you take away anything from tonight, have a plan to communicate regularly with your alumni in all the different platforms, print, electronic, and social. All right, restricted fundraising. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Typically, it's around scholarships or leadership development programs. Those gifts are generally routed through a 501c3 organization. Some chapter house corporations are C3s, but generally these gifts are routed through your fraternity or sorority educational foundation, or in some cases through the college or university. These gifts can be a one-time ask or annual ask or a periodic ask. So we have groups that will do a regular annual ask for a scholarship or leadership development, or they do it every 2, 3, or 5 years off cycle, so it builds over time. The challenge with restricted fundraising is a mixed bag from donors, and it's dependent upon the donor's history in the program. So, for example, there are a number of alums who don't necessarily agree with scholarship programs, but they will support sending chapter officers to leadership development programs. So depending upon the type of restricted fundraising that you're doing, you may see a good response, or it may not be as robust as you would like. So those are really kind of hit or miss, depending upon your alums and the type of program that you're trying to raise money for. Major capital campaigns, big and complex, typically around new builds, purchase, operating endowments, renovations. These gifts or these goals are pretty healthy, in excess of $250,000, all the way up to 5 and 7 million, depending upon the size of the organization. It's really important that you do a feasibility study under these. The feasibility study is your roadmap for the campaign. It tells you where you've got pitfalls, where you've got opportunities. It sets a realistic goal for the organization to undertake. If you just arbitrarily pick a number, it creates all sorts of issues, potentially issues down the road. If you don't hit the goal, if you surpass the goal, there's challenges with both sides of those. So the feasibility study really sets you up for success by determining a realistic goal. Your response rate is going to be around 15 to 20% of your members. We really recommend that you secure fundraising counsel to solicit major gifts. As Sherry said, fundraising, those major gift asks, asking a specific individual for a $50,000 gift or a $250,000 lead gift is daunting for most people. Fundraising counsel are experts in that. That's what they do day in, day out. And so really it's money well spent to secure individuals who understand the dynamics of asking someone for a significant gift. Announce that project, ideally when you're at 40% or 50% of your goal. Major fundraising, including the small to mid-sized programs, it's very much psychological. You've got alums across the spectrum of can only give you a very little amount, maybe once, to can give you a large amount, maybe multiple times. The individuals that can give you small amounts, and we're just going to say, pick a goal, let's say the goal is $500,000, that person that can only give you $1,000 they're thinking of $1,000 towards $500,000 is a very small amount. It's a very small percentage, and their money isn't going to matter. In reality, it does, but there's a psychological game that's played where they think that $1,000 gift doesn't make an impact. If you're already at 300,000 of towards your goal, now that $1,000 gift is much more meaningful in the grand scheme of things and has much more impact because now it's 1,000 out of 200,000 instead of 1,000 out of 500,000. So you do play a psychological game with your big project or small to mid-sized projects where you don't want to announce the project or go public until you've secured a significant amount of your giving through those major gifts, those one-on-one lead gift individuals, have them on board ready to go. Capital campaigns can't operate without a volunteer team. So while the council or your major volunteers are doing those big gift solicitations, you need lots of those little gifts to hit it to goal. We do a fundraising pyramid that talks about at the top end, there's a small percentage that give those big gifts, and at the very bottom, at the base, are lots of individuals that give small gifts. The best way to solicit those is peer-to-peer solicitation, having area captains and volunteers reach out to the individuals that they went to school with and having them secure a gift by saying, hey, would you join me at a specific level? So you need lots of volunteers in those major campaigns. They're long, from feasibility study to completion, anywhere from 12 to 24 months. And these gifts are done, paid out over time, done via pledges and paid out over a period of time, typically 3 to 5 years. So it does take a fair amount of time to get those funds in. Sure. All right. We're going to spend most of our time talking about the next two slides. Annual giving. These are generally unrestricted gifts. Use them for your ongoing operational costs, whether it's alumni events, supporting the chapter operations, alumni communication, doing your newsletters, website hosting, sending out e-distributions. Generally unrestricted. The money that donors give, y'all can use for whatever you choose, versus the restricted giving for like scholarships or leadership programs. There are online platforms that are available to you for free. GiveButter, GoFundMe, there are a number of them out there. They typically have what's called a tip option for the donors to pay above the fees that are charged. That's how they operate. So the donors end up paying a little bit more to keep that free. You can turn those on or off, etc. There are alumni engagement companies such as ourselves. One of our competitors out there, Pennington Omega Phi, also do these services. If you don't have the time to do it on your own, we're here to help you. Make sure that whatever platform you're using, whether it's GiveButter, GoFundMe, or another, there's dozens of options out there. I'm not recommending any of those. There's a lot of them. GiveButter is very popular, but make sure that they allow for one-time and set up recurring gifts. That way, a donor can set up, hey, I'll do $15 a month, or I'll do $50 a month, or I'll do $100 a quarter, and let those gifts just start happening automatically versus one-time gifts. Really, the impetus is to try to get them to set up those recurring gifts. The old commercial, infomercial, set it and forget it. You want donors to do that. You want them to set up that recurring gift and then basically forget about it and let it just keep charging every month or every quarter or every year. The challenge for all these platforms is you've got to continue to drive members to them. Take anything away, again, communication. You've got to have a mechanism to get people to those platforms to make their gift, whether it's a one-time gift, a recurring gift. You've got to have a program, 12-month program that outlines key dates. You want to think about your strategies around year-end giving, Giving Tuesday, Tax Day appeals, Founders Day appeals, special events, chapter initiations, graduations. There's lots of opportunities throughout a calendar year to send out a communication to your members to get them to drive them to your giving program. One of the things we talked about in the miss is fundraising versus fundraising. So not every one of your communications should be fundraising. Because if you are always asking for money, you're going to drive people away. There should be a very good balance of communications that are purely informational, that drive them to your website or drive them to a site for more information, such as a chapter or such as homecoming, initiation of new members, happy holidays, happy Founders Days. Those are really good opportunities to just send out a communication saying, hey, we're thinking about you. We want to wish you a happy Founders Day, or we want to wish you a happy holiday, or we're super excited to announce that we just initiated, X number of new members, or join us for homecoming against, ABC on Saturday, November, whatever. All opportunities to send out a communication that is not asking for money. Certainly, if you've got a website where you've got more information, it becomes a passive ask because there should be a donate button on your website or within whatever online tool you're using to passively get people to make a gift. But you really want to give a balanced communication program that balances the fundraising and the fundraising. But within the calendar year, there are great opportunities. I referenced tax day appeals. There's a lot of information that people will make a gift around tax day. So from a tax deductible standpoint, the end of year, end of the fiscal year is a really great opportunity to do an appeal, even though the majority of these gifts will not be tax deductible. But there's a psychological game around that. And then around the April timeframe, also another appeal around the tax day because it ties into giving and charitable deductions. Founders Day, Giving Tuesday, great opportunity. The challenge with Giving Tuesday right now is that it's being inundated with other organizations. Your alma maters are probably doing it. Your fraternity sorority headquarters are probably doing it. There's certainly a number of nonprofits that are doing it. And so we sort of get lost in the shuffle with that. So I would suggest that your Founders Day is a really good opportunity to tie in the Giving Tuesday philosophy around a day that is dedicated just to your organization. And I would use your chapter's Founders Day instead of the national organization Founders Day, because there may be some tie-in with the national organization and their fundraising appeal through their foundation, whereas your chapter-specific Founders Day is going to be very specific and unique to you and your members versus the general population as a whole. So think about those. Your graduation is another opportunity to give back. Your organizational conventions, leadership schools, national conventions, those are also opportunities around to do fundraising, especially in a restricted environment, because there'll be opportunities typically through your national organization to secure funds aside to send your chapter leaders to leadership schools or conferences. But you haven't heard it enough. I'm going to hear it again. Regular communication is critical. Have an annual program that outlines your target dates, what you're going to send out, when you're going to send it. What we haven't talked about, and we're going to talk about that here now, is what do you use? What are the tools to send out? And this will be tied into both the annual giving and the small to medium project fundraising. So print, email, and social media. Those are the three primary methods of communication, and we really recommend 2.5 of those. Print, for sure, gets high contact rate. So printed pieces are getting to 80+% of your members. Cons, expensive, slow, but you're hitting the majority of your members. Email, super fast, super inexpensive, in some cases free. Use MailChimp or Constant Contact, MailLite. All of those have free options. Most of them limit the number of emails that you can send. either at a time over a period of time, but they all have free options. It's fast, it's free, generally inexpensive. The problem is that it's not getting to the majority of your members. So and math is hard, so I'm just going to use 1,000 alums. If you've got 1,000 living members and you do a print piece, that print piece is going to get to roughly 800 people. If you send it electronically, the best groups that we see have a 60% list. So 60% of the members actually have an email address. That's the best. The majority are going to be in the 30 to 40%. Only 30% of those will actually open it. So if you're at 60%, you're at 600, and 30% means you're only going to have 180 people actually open that email. Those numbers can go up or down depending on the time of year when it's sent, what the subject headline is. But you've now taken from 1,000 people, only 180 on the high end are going to open that email message and click through it. So email has to be a component of your communication program. If you only do a print piece, consider oversized postcards. Great, inexpensive way, 8.5 by 5.5 oversized postcard. It stands out in the mail. Put a QRC on it to drive people to the online platform. Super inexpensive, and it allows you to start to track those returns, update your mailing list, and you're touching people in at least once a year with some type of communication. Plants the seed. Hey, I should go online. I should follow. I should update my email, etc. So if you do anything at all, send out at least one oversized postcard. Really encourage you to do a print solicitation if you're looking for money. Again, a little bit more expensive, but you'll get a better ROI on that than just sending out electronic. Make sure you are tracking and thanking. There's not a whole lot of free or inexpensive options for CRMs out there. HubSpot is one. There's a number of them out there. They will say free if you Google them, but it's only free for a period of time, 14 or 30 days. And then you're into a monthly subscription. Again, not a whole lot of money, 8, 15, 20 bucks a month on those subscriptions, but that does move you away from an inexpensive or free program. Thank your members, thank your donors. GiveButter and some of those online tools have generic templates that allow you to send an electronic thank you to those who make a gift. Be sure to put that into play. If you do a print and you get checks coming back, have a printed acknowledgement letter that goes out to them. It's personalized, that thanks them for their gift. Here's what happens when you don't. And you've got to thank every gift, whether it's $5 or $5,000. If that $5 alum doesn't get a thank you note, the likelihood of him or her giving again declines enormously. The drop off is incredible. If that $5 donor does get a thank you gift, the likelihood of them giving again when you ask again substantially increases. So and remember, you're in a donor acquisition. You're building that pipeline of donor acquisitions. If you start today, you're going to build the giving up over time. So that donor that gives you $5 today gets a thank you. That gift may be $10 tomorrow, and then $20 the next day. And before you know it, as they matriculate through life, as they become more engaged with the organization, as they feel a connection, as they know their gift is appreciated, that $5 gift can become a $250 gift, that can become a $1,000 gift. But if you don't thank them, you're never going to make it that far. So be sure you have a mechanism to thank your donors. Annual giving, average response rate is going to be around 6 to 10%. That's on an established alumni engagement program where you're communicating with them regularly. You're doing consistent communications that are not fundraising related, and then followed up with communications that are solicitation based. So let's go back to the math that we talked about earlier, and I'll talk about the online giving, the clicks tied to that. So if you've got 1,000 members, 80% get the communication piece, and you get a 5% response rate, that's 80, that's 40 donors from that mailing. And if the average gift size is $100, well, that's $4,000 in revenue. You can take out what your expenses were on the front end, and then you can see what your net is. But roughly $4,000 in revenue from that mailing. Let's go to the e-communication side. 180 now opened it. We get about a 1% click-through rate. So now we're at 10% was 18. So now we're at 2 people that have, I had to do math. Sorry about that. So now we're at 2% or 2 donors that actually click a link, and the average gift size is about $75. So while it was inexpensive to send out, you're not generating a lot of income. Now, there's exceptions to the rules across the board, exceptions to everything that I'm going to share with you. There are groups that have a really good response rate on electronic giving. On average, those are the numbers that we see. So just know that you get high cost, high return off of print, low cost, low return off of email. So that's why there's a balance. Go back. Can we go back real quick? I do want to talk about the half communication that was on social media. So we don't recommend using Instagram. We don't recommend using Twitter, X, Snapchat. What we do recommend is Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups. So the difference being your Instagrams and your general Facebooks and your X's all use some type of algorithm out there to get that message out. So if you're announcing your golf tournament or homecoming or whatever on Instagram or X or just regular Facebook, the likelihood of your members actually seeing it are pretty slim because it's tied to an algorithm. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to see it, and most of them don't care. Facebook groups, if you don't have a Facebook group set up for your organization, do so. Free, easy. Same with LinkedIn groups. If you don't have a specific LinkedIn group set up for your alumni group, set it up tonight. It's super quick, super effective. Start inviting your members to join that LinkedIn group and use that as another method of communication. Again, free. All it takes is time to do it. But that becomes another tool within your quiver, another arrow in your quiver to communicate out with your members. But that takes time to build both of those groups, audiences up, secure a volunteer from every era. Once you get both of those set up, secure a volunteer from every era and have them reach out to the people that they went to school with an invite. Hey, join our new LinkedIn group for ABC organization. We're going to update information here along with online, just another way of getting information. So that's the 2.5: print, email, and only half of the viable social medias. All right, now I'm ready. All right, small to medium projects, very similar to campaigns, but just on a smaller level. Typically looking to raise money of $25,000 to $250,000. These are either emergency needs, small renovations, special purchases. We need to buy new beds for the house. We need to replace the roof. Bill will know you've got life cycle on all of your things related to a house: a roof, HVAC, windows, furniture, all of the hot water heaters. All of those have a life cycle. And if you're not planning for replacing those, you're going to get hit with an emergency need where you need to raise or spend a large amount of money that isn't planned for. These small projects are perfect ways to go out to do fundraising. But you need to have a very specific need. Your communication needs to be very clear. This is going to be different than your annual communication. It's because it's very specific to a need. Have a goal, show the progress towards that goal. A thermometer is really important. It shows progress. And again, much like a major capital campaign, you know, don't announce it until you're 40 or 50% towards your goal. Secure your insiders, secure your major donors, go to those key alums that are always there, always available, and say, hey, listen, we've got to do this project. It's going to cost us $75,000. Can we get you on board with a $10,000 lead gift? Consider a matching gift challenge with that key alum. If you've got somebody that's got the capacity of doing a significant gift, leverage it in a matching gift challenge so that you can send out a communication, say, hey, we've got a donor, an alum, public or anonymous, both of them work just fine, who's willing to match dollar for dollar up to. Or if you get two or three who are all at the same level, you know, if you've got 4 or 5 guys, members all willing to do 5,000 or 10,000. So if you got 5 alums that are all willing to do 5,000, you've got 25,000. Use that, say, hey, we've got a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1 match. Every dollar that comes in will be matched dollar for dollar up to, you know, a certain amount. Those all become really good strategies to get those smaller gifts in. You've already got a threshold towards your goal, and then it becomes an easier objective to reach. Much like in the major campaign work, having volunteers doing peer-to-peer are really important. You know, there's a lot of value in having someone. So if I'm going to support the campaign at $1,000, there's a lot of value in me reaching out to people that I went to school with, say, hey, I think, you know, the replacement of the boiler, it's not sexy, but it's super important. We want to make sure that the undergrads have a place to live that is comfortable. I'm on board with supporting this boiler replacement project with $1,000. Would you join me at that level? It's a really impactful way to get people to make a gift that's bigger than what they would anticipate, what they might consider. The problem with doing this, hey, give what you can type of communication, is that alum that can give you $2,500, $2,500 if they're asked specifically for that amount, may give you $100 because that's what they think that you want to hear, or may give you $250, you know, and you're going to leave a lot of money on the table if you just send a message out that says, hey, give what you can. Major gifts, very specific ask amount. Go to those alums. Hey, would you be on board with 5,000, with 10,000? The smaller gifts, very effective to have a peer ask them for a specific dollar amount. These small to medium projects, those gifts do tend to be smaller than in a major capital campaign. And then from a giving response, you know, we talked about very briefly the capital campaign, 15 to 20%, annual giving, you know, 6 to 10%. These small to medium projects are going to fall in between. So somewhere in that 10 to 15% range would be an expected percentage of alums to contribute to a small to medium sized special project. I think that's all for that one.
Brian, that was excellent information. Thank you. We're already getting some great questions. So I just want to remind everybody to please remember to add any other questions that you think of in the Q&A box, and we'll address them at the end of our session.
Before we jump into those or turn it over to Bill, a couple of things that I just want to kind of talk through. Everything fundraising can be done on your own. There's no doubt about it. All it takes is time. And if you've got volunteer leadership that is willing to devote the time to tackle the communication program, if you've got other volunteers to spread the work around, if you've got chapter leaders that can help with very specific projects, can all be done on your own. There is no need to retain services like mine because it can all be done on your own. There are groups out there that do it on a regular basis. It just requires time. Time and planning to have that well thought out communication program to engage your alums on a consistent and regular basis. We didn't talk about data. You can get your data list from headquarters. Uh, they should have no issues in sending you a list of your alums. The challenge is going to be in updating and maintaining that. We did talk about not a lot of free CRMs out there. A lot of groups maintain it in Excel. Uh, we see those lists come in, and there are all sorts of fun, to be polite. Uh, I'm more than happy to walk you through what a good Excel spreadsheet from a maintenance standpoint could look like. It's not a recommended source, but certainly if it's doable to maintain an Excel spreadsheet of your alums and their giving history by by fiscal year, calendar year, whichever you use, but certainly doable. Um, and then there's other tools out there that are free. ChatGPT and Gemini, great resources to help craft your fundraising message. Put in some keywords, some history of the organization, what the objective is. They will craft and how you want to communicate, whether it's a print piece or email piece or LinkedIn or Facebook message. Use those tools that they'll be very helpful in helping you craft that message. If you're not good in design, Canva has a free tool that is fairly easy to use from a design standpoint to create some graphics for the print or communication pieces. And then MailChimp, MailLite, Constant Contact all have free tools, generally limited in number of emails that you can send at one time or over a period of time.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. At Alpha Fraternity Management, we're best known for our property management services, but our work extends far beyond that. We also handle lease execution, rent and fee billing, as well as accounting and financial management. And through these efforts, we have the privilege of partnering with outstanding organizations like Elevate, bringing their expertise and resources directly to our community. Because of the wide range of situations that we encounter in managing Greek organizations, we've gained valuable insight into nearly every scenario imaginable, and we've developed solutions to help chapters navigate these challenges successfully. I'm excited now to introduce one of our business managers, Bill Horner, who will share some real-world examples currently impacting our community, along with a few practical DIY solutions. Take it away, Bill.
Thanks, Sharon, and thanks, Brian. Some of the items I may mention may be slightly repetitive from the ideas that Brian mentioned, but that's okay. I just think it just emphasizes how easy and effective some of the tools that are out there are available. As Brian had mentioned, Giving Tuesday's coming up actually on December 2nd, 2025. And I know that's only a little more than a month away, but it's still something to keep in mind, that how important it is to begin to get organized, to rally your alumni or that committee that's in charge of fundraising. And honestly, even if the December 2nd Giving Tuesday comes and goes, you can create your own giving day. It could be Giving Thursday, or I know Brian mentioned about the Founders Day, or maybe the day that your chapter was founded, of course, on campus or nationally, and you could use that as a launching pad for your own fundraising event within your chapter. Keep the plan simple and focused. I think that a lot of people get bogged down in, sure, I hate when I say the minutia, the details, but don't overcomplicate it. Again, lots of great services out there like Elevate, but if you're trying to do something yourself, I've seen a few groups attempt to do things themselves, which I respect, but I think they then get bogged down in a lot of little details and then kind of miss the boat, because if you start getting down that rabbit hole, then maybe you really do need to go to a third-party company like Elevate and work with them if it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. engage everyone. I believe in like a vertical engagement. I think a lot of times we forget about the chapter, the current members, getting those guys involved and having them understand the importance that for the success of the chapter, it takes, a village. It takes the entire chapter, whether it's the new pledge class, the actives, the alum from just the last 10 years, and the alum from 50 years ago. I think everyone automatically just goes to the 50-year-old alums who have been with the chapter for a long time and forget about, the younger guys and how they can also assist with your campaign. Um, Clearly, this is also important. Clearly define what you're trying to raise funds for. Like Brian mentioned, a feasibility study. But if you're not looking to do something maybe that large and you're looking to do something a little smaller, a little more local, then make sure you have that clearly stated. So, for example, about 2 years ago, one of my clients, they were doing the dining room, redoing the dining room floor, and they actually used the chapter guys to as the labor, so to speak. But then they did put out an announcement to the alum to donate the tables, and they were able to raise, I think it was a little over 10 grand that they were able to raise, which was enough to purchase the dining room tables that they wanted for their chapter house. I think the idea is that, again, they had a specific goal in mind, a specific item. And when the guys or when the alumni would donate, as many of them do use checks, and we just happen to be their client of ours, so the money would come to us for depositing. It was neat seeing the alumni writing on the memo for dining room tables. And I remember a couple of the alumni would even write a little note in there that obviously I scanned and sent to the alumni board, and specifically said, I hope this donation can help your new tables, within the chapter, and that, I have a lot of great memories of being in the dining room, being in the chapter house, things to that nature. So again, I think when you have that type of goal, you're going to get not just the money, but also the intrinsic feeling, and that can maybe really energize your fundraising. You can go to the next slide, please. Thanks. Make it easy and engaging. Um, Again, as Brian mentioned, there's a lot of great resources out there, IT wise, AI. Again, simplifying the donation process, I'm sure Brian will agree, is really important. You don't want to make it complex where you have to go through 3 steps to be able to donate, $100 or 1,000 or 300,000. So again, I reference the Give Butter, and I'll probably reference that again. I've worked on that site a little bit for one of our clients to try to put something together for them. They're not quite technologically advanced, so I put some things together for them, and I was amazed how easy it was to be able to put something together and create something interactive for their alumni and for their members to use. Um, Creating a website. We have, again, I referenced the chapter members. Almost all of these guys are technologically advanced, and there's probably at least 1 to 3 members in every chapter that's in some type of IT program or engineering program where they have to do those kinds of items. And you can get those guys to do it for free. And I work on a side project with Alpha, so I've had the opportunity to research a lot of different groups, chapters out there. And it's really neat to see how many do have web pages. It doesn't have to be big, flashy, and type of situation. It can be something simple, but I really feel that that is an underutilized resource for our alumni and for you, again, as a way to get your alumni, hey, go check out our website. And it should be both, it should be both for the chapter and for the alumni, not just, oh, we're raising money on this website. It should include everything, which I think is very, very important. Have a QR code on there where they can scan on their phone to donate, or as Brian mentioned, you have the, donate now button, and that takes you to that platform to quickly donate some money or a reoccurring donation. Keep the site fresh. I've seen that where it'll be on there. Come to our alumni barbecue 2022. Well, the last time I checked, it's 2025. So make sure you are updating your website. I think it's important. Um, add visual excitement. Again, I have a client who in the next year they're going to be hosting their national convention at their chapter house. And they do have a kind of a dollar amount they're looking to raise, about 25, 30K, maybe a little bit more. And I was thinking about this early this afternoon. Maybe if they do a website, they could, instead of a thermometer, they use their mascot for that fraternity, and it would show being filled up with the different colors of the fraternity. Again, getting people excited about where you're at with that goal. Again, getting people engaged so they have a visual of where you're at. Also, it's a great way to share, like Brian said, with Facebook and LinkedIn, and be able to quickly share those websites with your friends, your PC class, things to that nature. Um, Social media and flyers. I know Brian said not a big fan necessarily of Instagram and things to that nature. I didn't think much about that, but he's probably right. But I do believe there's still a group out there that may like to use that. I know that's where I do a lot of my donations. I see something on Facebook, from a friend, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to donate. I know that I have a client at another university. This is on the chapter level, but I think it's still pertinent. And I've encouraged the chapter to do more philanthropy. And they've done two different situations this past fall. One was like a pancake type breakfast at the Union, and they created Brian mentioned that Canva, very easy, and they created a great poster with that. Got that out on Instagram, social media. It had a QR code there, so I could easily scan that QR, and I was able to donate to that chapter. Not my fraternity, but I just thought, they're doing such a great job. I want to encourage them. Um, Again, I think making events fun, engaging everyone, utilizing the resources that you have at your disposal without having to pay a lot of money. Finally, I'll also mention that, I have another client who during homecoming events, they always have like a pass the hat concept where they always meet at the same bar where they met back in the day as a pledge class, and they usually raise between $4,000 to $10,000 every year, this alumni group, because they invite their other pledge members. Hey, we're going to be at, such and such at Jackson's, bar, and we hope to see you there. And then they talk about, hey, next summer we want to do the reno on the chapter room. We want to refresh the second floor bathroom. We want to do this. And they're like, oh yeah, that would be really great. I haven't been to the house recently. You're saying it looks bad. You know what? I haven't donated recently. Here's $1,000. So I think again, you got to think out of the box. You can switch to the next page there, Sherry. Next, again, getting everyone involved, like I mentioned, making it a team effort, utilizing everyone at your disposal that you can if necessary, especially if funds are limited and you're not able to go the route of an Elevate. I had a group recently, this was probably about a year ago, and they wanted to, again, raise funds for specific renovation in the house. So they did a phone bank. They had the chapter members contact alumni and solicit funds. It sounds a little old school, but it worked. They didn't raise $1 million, but they did raise some funds. And again, alumni wrote in the, mailed the checks in. They wrote a little note in there how they really appreciated the phone call. They appreciated the contact. And again, who wouldn't like to hear from, a brother who's 18, 19, 20, living in your chapter house, and you're 50, 60, 70 years old, and be able to share stories to someone who you've never met, but yet you have that common connection. Um, also it's opportunity to share personal experiences, kind of like back to that webinar, the website. I've seen websites where they have the current members sharing their own thoughts on why they joined the fraternity along with the older alumni to get people excited. Always send thank you notes, which I think Brian mentioned. Again, my own fraternity, I donate a couple times throughout the year, and every time I get a thank you card written by a chapter member from from a different chapter in the country. My own chapter is not active any longer, but it comes from another university or another chapter, and I think it's really, really great to see that. And it's something personal. It's actually handwritten in cursor. Can be a little bit hard to read because guys nowadays don't know how to write as well as they used to. But the point was, like Brian said, that really hit the spot because then when the next time round of giving came along, when the fraternity asked, I was more likely to give again because I'm like, hey, they recognized my donation regardless of how small or big it was. So get your chapter members to participate in that, and maybe that's their responsibility. Um, we can change the next things. Showcase the chapter spirit. Again, using photos and videos, I'm on social media, of course, and I follow a couple different chapters. A lot of them do these videos where they are zooming into the front of the chapter house and they got all the guys outside raising, flying the flag of the fraternity, getting people excited, like, hey, come on into our chapter house. And they come into the foyer and they go into the chapter room, they go to the basketball and they have guys shooting hoops. Things to that nature, again, might be another great way to not only show that guys are living there, they're having fun, but also like, hey, you know what? We could use this. We can need to have this upgraded. And it's something you could share to alumni, whether it's sent out digitally or on that website. But it's just something that gets people excited. Um, Celebrate milestones publicly, get people excited. Hey, we reached a certain goal. I think sometimes we forget about that. Um, Help again, create those thank you notes, create thank you videos, I think are great too, especially if it was a big goal that was met. I think like a group type video could be very, very beneficial. I think that's it.
Right. Thank you both, Brian and Bill. We do have some questions that I want to get to. Brian, the first one is actually for you. It's nice to have funding for scholarships and for renovations or projects, but it's also important to keep the doors open. How effective have you found fundraising for operations to be?
Yeah, I mean it's part of the ongoing expectation. Most people understand that there are operational issues that need to be funded. So when you outline and look at all of your expenses, now a house corporation that's doing their job is going to look at their maintenance costs, their taxes, uh, what the replacement life cycle is, what's coming due. They're going to be budgeting for that with their rental income. The reality is that things happen, and that's not always the case. So if you explain out the operating cost of the organization and what the shortfall is, or what you need to raise money for, people are very happy to support that if there's a very clear objective as to where those funds are going.
Great. One of our guests asked, should you note that the gifts are not tax deductible?
Yes, yes. Uh, it becomes an IRS issue. Now, what you can't control is what the claims on their taxes. But if you've got on the documentation of the solicitation and the acknowledgement that the gift is not tax deductible, that burden falls on the donor and what they do in their tax annual filings. If it's unclear as to whether or not it's tax deductible or not, that becomes then gray area, and it can get individual organizations in trouble if there's ever an audit. Never heard of it happening, but that's not to say that it couldn't or wouldn't happen. Most of your organizations are going to be probably what are called 501c7s. which are not for profit but not tax exempt organizations. You have a limited tax liability depending upon the annual income that you receive from rent. You'll either be filing a simple, an easy form, and it slipped my brain on what that is, or you have to do a 990 EZ, or you have to do a full tax filing. But yeah, you need to clearly differentiate whether or not the gifts are tax deductible or not. And there's common language that's used. Generally, it's going to say something like, these gifts are not considered tax deductible according to IRS regulations. Please consult your CPA or tax attorney for anything else. And if the gifts are tax deductible, if you are a 501c3, then it'll say something along the lines of, these gifts are, this organization is a 501c3, and these gifts are tax deductible as allowed by law. Again, please consult your CPA or tax attorney for further advice.
Good. I hope I'm going to get this one right. If I don't quite get to the answer that the question as you're asking it, please put your question back in the Q&A box and I'll try again. But we've had a guest talk about they're considering a feasibility study, Brian, and they're wondering how effective those are.
Tremendously effective. A feasibility study does a couple of things. As I referenced, it sets your realistic goal for what the campaign does. And here's very briefly how a feasibility study works. It's 3 to 5 months of meeting with potential key donors. So identifying through well screenings, through the board, identifying key folks. You identify 30 or 50 of the key potential donors for the organization, and you have a conversation with them on whether or not they would be likely to support XYZ project. You survey everybody through both printed and electronic surveys, so you get a 360 view of your membership. You take all that information and it outlines for you very clearly what a likely goal is, whether that's 500,000 or whether it's 2.5 million. You'll have a very clear understanding of what that goal is. The other thing, the couple other things that it does is it identifies where your obstacles are. So it's basically a SWOT analysis. It's going to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, and give you an opportunity to address those before you go into a campaign. And it's a pre-solicitation. So you're asking those major donors, would you consider supporting the campaign? And if so, would you consider it at this level? You've pre-sold them on that, and assuming the answer is yes, then when you move into a campaign, you've already planted the seed with those major donors. It's time to go back to them and say, hey, we've made the plan, we're moving forward with this plan to do XYZ. Now we need you to lock in your support at X level that you identified during the feasibility study. So it does a lot of things that set you up for success in the long run. I just want to talk about that goal. So if you arbitrarily set a goal for $1 million, you didn't do a study, you just say, hey, we need to raise $1 million, or we think we can raise $1 million, and you come up and when it's all said and done, you've raised $750,000. Is that campaign successful? Well, the perception is that no, because you left you were 25% short. You came up $250,000 short of that goal. So no, it wasn't successful. You missed your goal. If the goal was, if you do the study and the goal comes out and says you can raise $750,000 and you raise $730,000, was that campaign successful? Yeah, absolutely. You were within a whisker of hitting your goal. So that's the negative on an arbitrary goal. There's another negative that's on the other side. If you arbitrarily set that goal at $1 million and 8 months in, you hit your $1 million, it's very difficult to raise the goal. You've established what the objective is. People have made a gift to hit the goal. And now if you move the goalposts on them, there's going to be some skepticism and some reluctance to further give you money because you've moved the goalpost. So if you do that feasibility study and it says you can raise $1.3 million, you've got a very realistic opportunity of hitting $1.3 million. If the goal is arbitrary at $1 million, you're not going to hit $1.3 million. You may get $1.1 million, a little bit higher, but you're not going to get to the level of what you could have if you had set a realistic goal. So there's lots of really good, valuable information that you get from that study. So yes, they are very much worth it and important. I hope that answered the question.
I think it did. Bill?
Just a quick question, Brian. Talking about like, and I'm not very knowledgeable on all the tax stuff, but can you give to your fraternity's foundation that has, the tax haven, I guess, and then they would be able to share with the chapter?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that this works, and it really is dependent upon the educational foundation and what their ability or willingness is to grant back funds. So let's go through the two most common scenarios. That is a scholarship fund, scholarship or leadership fund, and then a housing type or special projects fund. In the scholarship or leadership fund, you make a tax deductible gift through the foundation that is designated towards ABC chapter scholarship, ABC chapter leadership fund. Many of our groups have alumni named scholarship funds, so you can designate it specifically for any one of those scholarship funds. And then every year, based upon the interest, the returns that the foundation has, they'll allow for scholarships in a certain amount to be delivered, generally on the interest and not attacking the corpus. On the other side of that, you're going to have special project or housing funds. This is dependent upon the fraternity or sorority educational foundation on whether or not they're willing to grant those monies back. There will need to be documents crafted between the two entities that outline how the gifts go to the foundation and how the gifts go back to the organization. When we get into chapter housing, we get into a lot of IRS restrictions on what those funds can be used for. If you're not familiar with it, in general, only the portion of a chapter house that is educational in nature qualifies for tax deductibility. And in order to be compliant with the law, you need to have an attorney look at the plans of that house, either existing or proposed, and they will do a calculation that says, based upon the square footage of this and that and the other, 32% of the property qualifies, or 23%, or 49% of the property qualifies as educational space. And therefore, whatever the amount that you're raising, you can apply that percentage as tax deductible. So if it's $1 million goal and 25% of the house is qualifies for educational space, then you're looking at $250,000 that can be routed through a qualified C3 and then granted back to the organization as a gift specific for those projects. Does that make sense? It gets really convoluted, and if y'all are not familiar, there's
Yes,
legislation out there. It's been around for a long time. It's called CHIA, or the Collegiate Housing Infrastructure Act. The fraternity and sorority PAC is very active in lobbying Congress to get that passed. That would level the playing field between university colleges and universities and fraternities and sororities. For example, you can give $100 to ABC College, and they can use that to build a new residence hall. But if you give that same $100 to a fraternity or sorority, they can only use a portion of that to renovate or build a chapter house. So,
Health has done a couple of hundred renovations over the years with our clients. And when we're in the beginning stages of talking through what those renovations might look like, those are some of the things that we talk about. Can you plan some educational space and how that would affect your fundraising efforts? So yeah, really good question, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, I believe that we have come to the end of our time together here. There is our contact information if you need to get a hold of us at Alpha or Brian at Elevate. There are email addresses and phone numbers right there on your screen. to reach out to us. We deeply appreciate you all joining us tonight for your participation with the questions. And we look forward to seeing you again in future webinars. Thanks again. Have a great night.
Yeah, thanks
Have a good
everybody.
night.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.